For years, Vladimir Putin has been selling the world and his own people the same old story. He keeps saying Crimea is Russia's unsinkable aircraft carrier, an impregnable fortress protected by the best shields on the planet. Well, I have got news for you. That story is officially over. If you look at the events of just the last few days, it proves that Crimea isn't a fortress anymore. It has basically turned into a massive, inescapable firing range for the Russian army. The hits are coming so fast, and they are so devastating that the Kremlin's propaganda machine cannot even sweep the wreckage under the rug anymore. Think about it. You claim to have the most advanced air defense system in the world, but you can't even protect your own radar? You send your elite coastal missile units to the island, and they get wiped off the map overnight. Your multi-million-dollar patrol ships are getting hit in their own port. This isn't some assumption or Western media exaggeration. This is hard, cold reality confirmed by satellite imagery. To really get what is happening, let's rewind the calendar to the night of February 25th. Ukrainian special ops pulled off what was basically a surgical strike right at the heart of the Russian air defense network. The target wasn't some random ammo dump. They went for the big prize, the ES-400 Triumph air defense system. This is considered the pinnacle of Russian engineering, with a total market value of approximately $1 billion. This thing was supposed to protect the entire southern front. But that night, the 92N6E multifunctional radar station, which is basically the brain of the system, was completely neutralized. We need to pause here for a second because this technical detail is actually huge. An ES-400 battery isn't just one truck. It is a massive organism. That 92N6E radar is the eyes and the nervous system. If you destroy that radar, you are literally blinding the Russian army. Imagine you have the sharpest sword in the world, but you are wearing a blindfold. That is exactly what is happening to Russian air defense right now. And it gets even more ironic. The Panzer ES-1 short-range system, which is specifically tasked with protecting the big guys from drones, was also destroyed that same night. The bodyguard failed to protect the protector. So, you have to ask yourself, how will this failure affect Russia's reputation in the global arms market when their best gear can't even save itself? Think about the position the Russian Black Sea Fleet is in right now. Their logistics were already heavily dependent on sea route because the pressure on the Kerch Bridge was getting too intense. But now, with the destruction of the Bastion batteries on the coast, those ships have to think twice before even coming near their own shores. So, you have to wonder, as the net surrounds Crimea, can the Russian command actually come up with a new strategy to salvage this situation? And here is the thing, the effects of this strategic destruction weren't limited to just Crimea. At the exact same time, massive ammunition depots near the settlement of Nizhnya Krinka, logistics centers in the Velikaya-Novosilka region, and the UIV command center in the Pokrovka region were all hit. In other words, Ukraine is systematically crippling not only the missiles, but also the arteries that feed them. Now, let's dive a little deeper into the dark waters of the Black Sea. We need to look at how this billion-dollar collapse was actually carried out, step by step, because the ES-400 turning to ash on February 25th and the Bastion coastal missiles being silenced on February 23rd were not a coincidence. It was the flawless final scene of a systematic blinding operation that started days earlier. It all kicked off on the night of February 19th. Before Ukraine could take down the mainland defenses, they had to sever the region's eyes and ears. That meant targeting the floating intelligence center. That night, explosions rocked Katsha, Belbek, Sevastopol, and Boksary. It wasn't just ordinary harassment fire. Swarms of UIVs were gliding straight toward the heart of the Black Sea Fleet. The so-called governor of Sevastopol, Mikhail Raz, claimed that at least 16 unmanned aerial vehicles had been shot down. But let's be honest, the damage was too big to hide. Intelligence reports and photos from the partisan movement Crimean Wind proved that the Ivan Kurs reconnaissance ship was severely damaged. Now, the Ivan Kurs is no ordinary ship. As a product of Project 18,280, it was one of only two medium-sized reconnaissance ships in the entire Russian Navy. It was basically a floating brain tasked with listening to radio communications and jamming signals. According to report, the ship had to be towed to Holland Bay. Parts of the bridge were destroyed, the funnel was damaged, and the mast was surrounded by scaffolding. That camouflage net they threw over the deck was really just a desperate attempt to hide the truth. If they have to hide a major naval loss from their own people with camouflage nets, you have to ask yourself a serious question. If an intelligence-gathering vessel isn't safe even in its own port, is there a single square meter of water left in the Black Sea that is safe for Russia? We got the answer pretty quickly. On the night of February 21st, the Ukrainian armed forces decided to change up the target. This time, they dealt a devastating blow using unmanned aerial vehicles to two Project 22,460 Okhotnik border patrol ships near Inkerman. And they didn't stop there. They also hit two B-12 anti-submarine aircraft at the Yevpatoria aircraft repair facility. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine came out and confirmed it immediately. They said the destruction is confirmed, and they are investigating the extent of the damage. But honestly, the picture is clear. Russia's patrol and anti-submarine capabilities in the Black Sea just evaporated overnight. You need to understand what these machines do. The Okhotnik-class ships are rapid reaction units designed to stop anyone from infiltrating the Crimean coast. And those B-12 amphibious aircraft? They are specialized hunters for submarine threats. Taking them all out one after another proves that Ukraine isn't just firing randomly anymore. They are systematically dismantling the protective shield around Crimea, layer by layer. It is the same story with the destruction of a Tornado-ES multiple rocket launcher system. This thing is known as the Russian-made equivalent of MR. It was actively firing in Zaporizhia when it was hit. Commander Robert Madyar Brody stated that a drone struck the launchpad right during a full salvo. The whole thing, along with its satellite-guided rocket, was obliterated in a massive explosion. So what does all this actually mean? We are talking about billions of dollars in losses, endless lists of destroyed gear, but we need to look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about burning metal or sunken ship. At the heart of this, it is about human psychology. Think about the Russian soldiers in Crimea right now. They were convinced they were protected by the world's best air defense system. They slept soundly believing the Black Sea Fleet was invincible. But now, death rains down from the sky at night. The ES-400 systems they trusted are reduced to ashes. Intelligence ships are being hit right in the port. Even their own patrol boats can't protect them. When a soldier knows the defense line he is standing on could collapse at any second, his discipline and will to fight just completely undermined. And for the civilians, it is even worse. Since 2014, thousands of people were moved there with propaganda telling them it was a safe haven. Now, they are facing a harsh reality. The sound of sirens is replacing the sound of waves. Military cordons are replacing holiday resort. People are looking for ways to get out. The traffic jams on the Crimean bridge, the crashing real estate prices, the collapse of the local economy, these are the concrete mathematical proof that people have lost faith. They don't believe the Kremlin's lie that everything is going according to plan. And it is not just the missiles. There is a massive resource crisis eating the peninsula from the inside. Lines at gas stations are stretching for miles. I-95 gasoline and diesel are completely depleted in many districts. In big cities like Simferopol, you can't even find gasoline on the free market anymore. You can only get it with coupons. You can literally hear the desperation crying out in the local communication groups right now. Everyone is asking the exact same question. Where is the fuel? Prices have already skyrocketed to 90 rubles. Think about it for a sec. If the logistics of an entire peninsula depends solely on road transport and that famous bridge, and that route is constantly under attack, then that region ceases to be a sustainable living space. Experts are calling it exactly what it is. Crimea is slowly turning into a huge, isolated military ghetto. But the fuel isn't even the worst part. What about the water crisis? This is the darkest part of the picture, and honestly, it is probably the one that scares the Kremlin the most. After the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam, northern Crimea was already succumbing to a brutal drought, and the region's agricultural sector was on the verge of collapse. Day by day, people are experiencing panic not just from the bombs, but from being deprived of clean water, which is the most basic necessity. This situation clearly proves that Russia's propaganda about the development of Crimea has completely collapsed. It has been replaced by a ruthless struggle for survival. The civilian aspect of this is terrifying, but look at it from a military perspective. This scenario is a logistical nightmare for the Kremlin in the truest sense of the word. Consider that there are more than 60,000 Russian soldiers stationed on the peninsula who are also facing the same scorching thirst. According to military logistics standards, each soldier on the front line needs an average of 80 to 100 liters of water per day. That is for vital needs like drinking, hygiene, food preparation, and cooling heated military equipment. However, with the collapse of logistics lines in Crimea, the amount amount of water reaching some military bases is limited to only 20 to 30 liters per day.